Hi, I'm Luke. Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the best Leicester City content channel on the internet. Here I'm joined today as my usual partner in crime, Duck, my brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am looking forward to what could potentially be some points on the board after the Arsenal game. A lot to build on there, but sadly, we need to get some points on the board soon.
I'm hoping so, man. I really think we need it, but I'm going to get into why I think this is going to be a bit of a tricky one, but nonetheless, it's a game that you would hope that we could get at least something from, but we've been saying that a lot lately.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. This is the preview versus Brentford. Now, Brentford, mate. I think they're actually a really good side. You can see they're sitting 11th. They probably feel like they should be challenging at least for Europa League football. I don't know, but I think they've been brilliant, mate. Particularly with losing Tony and how they've adapted. I think they've been actually a really well coached side. I do rate Thomas Frank. I think he's brilliant. What are your thoughts on him, mate, and Brentford this season?
I mean, I love Brentford, right? They are I kind of want to say second team in the Premier League. When Leicester was out, if I watched the Premier League game, it was Brentford. It's a Danish team, and as someone who lives outside the country, we obviously keep an eye on how our countrymen are doing, and they have half the Danish national team pretty much in their lineup, right? And a Danish coach. So obviously, I've kept my eye on them ever since they made their way into the Premier League. And they've developed well, they've grown well. I like their philosophy. I like the confidence they have as well, the belief that they can go and win anywhere. The big thing I want to highlight, though, is while they are very good at home, and they did beat West Ham away last time, at the early point of the season, they were woeful away. They got 1 point from 7 games away at the beginning of the season. So while they have found more of a footing playing away from home, they still aren't as great as they are at home, where they are on another level.
I think so as well, mate. But I just think that we just gift people victories at the King Power this season, Charity FC. But let's hope we can change it, mate. Because I think there was a lot of positives that we could build upon from the Arsenal game. But whether or not that's going to work against how Thomas Frank sets up his team will remain to be seen. So here you can see the stats from the last game. They dominated possession, really a lot of fluid attacking football. I love the way they play Brentford, but 4 offsides, 2 goals from Wissa they should have kept. One of them I think was a bit harsh and I give him, but he had a brace technically taken away from him. So they looked really dangerous in that game. So that 1-0 on paper flatters West Ham in my opinion if you watch that game. But I don't know how much of it you watch, but they
I watched it all, actually.
good.
I watched it all. It was right after the Leicester games while we were getting ready for the pre-show. I kept it open on my second screen. They are very good. They are dangerous. They like to play an open game, right? Letting the individuals really shine. And I think Brian Mbeumo and Iron Whistle have really stepped up this season alongside other individuals at key points, being able to showcase their skill. We'll get more into those individuals when we get on towards the lineup here. And there are many of them you can highlight. In particular, I think the first name you really have to mention, despite all of the great praise I'm giving to Wissa and Mbeumo, it has to be Damsgaard. He's stepped up this season into the Premier League role and taken to it like a duck to water. It took a few years, but he's finally arrived. And he's gotten Brentford Player of the Month 4 months in a row now. He has been absolutely insane. And if you remember what happened the first time we played him, well, he cut through our defense like a hot knife through butter.
Damsgaard's really good. They've, to be honest, some of the best line-breaking passes I've seen this season have actually been from Brentford. They're really, really dangerous on transition, and we're going to talk about their tactics soon in a second. But this lineup here, obviously, is a lot of Danish players that you're well familiar with. You've got Norgard, you've got Damsgaard, brilliant players. Really, really, really strong team. I thought that in the final third, they look particularly really dangerous when they have that 5 up top. It's stuff we're all used to seeing under Enzo and many of the high level footballing teams, that system they play, but they actually do it really well. So what are your thoughts here on this 11? I know obviously it's very fluid. It changes a lot, but I think that this is a decent sized team that they can build upon if they're able to keep hold of Thomas Frank Brentford.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I mean, Vandenberg coming in the summer, right? But also some talent they invested in for quite a while. 2 years ago, they bought Damsgaard after his Euros and his knee injury that took some time to get over. Kevin Schade, they bought last year as well, one of their biggest purchases ever. And yeah, they've just grown into the squad over the years. Thomas Frank, someone willing to give players time to adapt if he believes in their talent and what they can achieve. And while it has taken someone like Kevin Schade and Damsgaard time to adapt, once they have adapted this season, they have been at points standout players. Schade less so. Damsgaard, the main one really throughout the year, alongside Mbeumo, are my 2 players to look at. But I think it's a strong roster, some good talent, some strong leaders. And if you look at the bench as well, they have some good options there. Mathias Jensen in particular, Fabio Carvalho. I'm looking at Ethan Pinnock, solid in defense as well. I don't know if he's back yet, but they bought a very big striker from Club Brugge for 35 million. Thiago, who has suffered an injury as soon as he came in, out for half a year, but he has come back, played a few minutes here and there, and that's probably also an option they'll have coming from the bench.
Fucking hell. Duck's got a Brentford jersey underneath that shirt, ladies and gentlemen. I agree with you though, mate. Like Carvalho, like Anil's got a total hard on for. We really wanted him to come last season when he absolutely set Norwich on fire. And I think they spent, was it 20 million? I can't remember how much they paid for Carvalho, but he hasn't featured as much as you would
He
expect.
hasn't been, but maybe give him time, right? Give him time.
Hey, and with whether Shade and wherever they're all playing up top, they're playing really well. So I can understand why they keep in their position, but like it goes to show the depth of the Premier League and what we're sorely missing. And if you're a purist, like some of the signings that some of the other teams outside the Big Six have made have like really been impressive. Like you look at the likes of, I think it's is it Fulham? No, Bournemouth. Yeah, Bournemouth is the ones that signed Evan Nielsen for like 40 million, I believe, right? Like some of these signings that some of these other like smaller clubs are making, of all due respect, are like really admirable. And I like to see it, like I said, from a purist point. Like the more depth there is in the Premier League, in my opinion, the better the quality overall. I don't want to see just the same, 4 to 6 teams competing every season as like an Aussie. Like that's the most like foreign shit ever. Like I like competition, but like, look, you can't always get what you want. But hey, they're a good side. So moving on, we got some of the managerial tactics to get into of Thomas Frank, your local Dane. In my opinion, his manager style, while he's often associated with a possession-based, high-pressing style, he's not wedded to a particular style. He's willing to change it up and the formation or philosophy. Instead, he's built the team around fluid tactical systems that can adapt to different opponents and circumstances, making them a tough side, in my opinion, to prepare for because it's quite fluid football and they're not, as I said, married to one style. Do you obviously think the world of him because you're very passionate, patriotic about your countrymen, but like you must, I think he's a very highly rated manager. And I think he's got a season or two if he does any better and he might get poached for someone else.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance, right? Many people wanted him to come in as a Danish national team coach when Kasper Hjulmand left in the summer. That didn't happen, and for good reason. We would have been able to offer him the money he probably wanted, and he still believes there is more to be done with this Brentford project, that's for sure. Wasn't very highly rated when he left Denmark at Brøndby, actually. He was rated as someone who wouldn't be able to cut it in England, but he's proved everyone wrong, joining about, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago now as an assistant in Brentford and then taking over after Dean Smith left. He's really good. He likes to focus on the relation. How do the players play to each other's strength and make sure others look good? And I think that's one of the strengths of their lineup. Once the lineup have clicked and the players know each other, know what they do, they find each other even without really thinking about it. And that's also when the tactic fails, though. If there are new players coming in and they don't click and they don't have the relation with the players from the training pitch and they're unable to develop them into the game, they can look a bit disjointed, and that's something potentially you can punish on. But the problem is their lineup is so settled recently that they know each other in and out and they know how to get the best out of each other.
Spot on, Duck. Here you can see, I'm not going to go as many slides moving forwards, guys, because a lot of these things are similar to other teams, but a few things that I wanted to bring up because I think it's going to be most important. So in their build-up, they have a 1-3-2-5. So you have obviously your goalkeeper, your 3 centre-backs, your 2 double pivot, and then they attack with 5 up front, which is the most scary, if you ask me, because how are we going to be able to deal with that will remain to be seen. We're probably going to be playing a high line. They play a high line too, so we'll talk about that later. It's basically high line versus high line. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up was because they play massive hoof it fucking forward goal kicks. So if they're going to play a high line, they're going to try and compress this up and outside the pitch. And if they're going to be attacking with 5 up front and we're not able to get too many counter opportunities, how are we going to deal with the numerical superiorities of Brentford? How are we going to be able to play ourselves out of pressure? Are we going to get swarmed on the ball, Duck? What are your thoughts just going from this? And do you think that this is something that we can exploit where if they're constantly inviting 50-50s, do we go tall? Do we go fast? There's so many questions that we'll get into, but these are the main ones that I wanted to ask and pick your brain about.
It's a good game to have NDD back. That's all I'll say, especially when they kick it long, right? We need tall defenders and DMs who are able to win the ball there and then play for the second ball. I'm leaning towards, I want us to have some of our faster wingers on the pitch. I think Mavididi, for example. You could maybe look at Buonanotte as well, and that's just because they defend with the 3. Keane Lewis-Potter pushes up really high, and that does create some space to try and exploit, or at the very least, give more width to the Brentford lineup when we get the ball to try and get them out of position or force them to handle situations where they'll have a tough choice. I think if we play with Di Cordova, Reed, and Ayer, there's a good chance that when we get the ball and look to go on the break and abuse the fact that they are pushing up with the wing back so high, they will have time to regroup and refine their focus, because we will just be playing with the ball for too long before we make our move and take on the man. So I think it's clear we need to have physical presence in the midfield. And then I would look to try and get it out to one of our faster wingers as soon as possible and then 3-4 quick passes, and then we need to be close to that box and be able to get a chance out of it, because this is a very hard team to build up against. We need to catch them on the break, and for example, this could be by winning a second ball after a goal kick and then quickly just turning on the Jets. So we need the fast wingers. I think it's a game for them, and I hope Root sees it the same way.
I agree with you, mate. I'm sick of having this conversation. It's the one thing I really don't like about Root is this winger situation. It's really starting to aggravate me. Here you can see an example of their high back line. Their back three. They've obviously got someone in the middle for the double pivot to receive the ball. Someone inverts in. Look, pretty much standard for a lot of formations of football now. Not necessarily much the high line, but inverting and stuff like that. Here you can see their numerical advantage. You've got 5 versus 4 here. This is what worries me most, is particularly if we're going to turn the ball over. So I think it's important that basically, I'm going to talk about this at the end of the preview, but in my opinion, this game is really going to be decided on which one of our double pivots is really on one, to be honest with you. If you're going to have 2 high lines, you're going to have a lot of balls over the top. It's really going to come down to Ndidi and Samari, what they can do. Can they play themselves out of trouble? Can they deal that superior numerical advantage? And can they dish the ball out turning it over? That's what I want to see.
Just to add slide into this, right? If you look at the screenshot you put in here, that's from the Crystal Palace game. This was Horslev, another Dane who left to Wolfsburg last game. He was an overlapping fullback that came through the Copenhagen Academy, as you can see right there. What that means is with Christopher Ayer now playing, he's more of a central defender going out wide, right? He wants to play in that 3-back possession based. So it will be Kian Lewis Potter from the left side that'll be overlapping. So we'll be keeping our eyes, especially on Ndidi and Woyo Coulibaly, right? They are going to have a tough job because they're going to be dealing with both Kevin Schade and Kian Lewis Potter, who are both full of pace and brimming with energy. But I do think that's a good thing, because Ndidi is very good defensively, and what we saw from Woyo Coulibaly in the game against Arsenal, he was rock solid in the tackles. So a lot of pressure will come down that left-hand side with, them not having an overlapping right back anymore, or at the very least in the lineup. Rico Henry can do that job, but he's still out injured, I believe. But we'll see when it happens. I just wanted to highlight, I think the left side would be key to keep your eye on, and I think that's good, again, to have Ndidi back, because he offers just 2 extra men, it feels like, in midfield in terms of finding those tackles.
He's been phenomenal. Like, I was talking to Manny on the phone earlier today, and I was like, oh, man, I was listening to your Fox's Den show. Everyone, I really recommend that you go back and watch that if you haven't already. It was really, really, really good. But Manny was just like, Ndidi is a fucking hero, he said, and he really has been since he's come back. So we're talking about Woyo Coulibaly. I want to ask you something, Doc. Now, I know hindsight's always favorable, but like, we needed a fresh injection. I'm fully aware. We needed someone to be able to come in straight away in the January transfer window. We need lots of people, to be honest with you. We didn't get it. We only got Woyo, and he hasn't been featured, and it's been frustrating. It's like, even I called him a Poundland signing. It wasn't, what's the point of bringing him in? Like, it's just for depth. Well, look, he's been slowly integrated into the team. He's looked okay the few moments he's been on. Hasn't been for long enough to judge. He finally gets a decent, I think he had 50, 60 minutes against Arsenal, or at least a half. When he come on for JJ, who is now obviously injured. The extent and severity, I don't know yet, but a moon boot's not good. This is his chance. Can he step up? He is going to be playing there. Now, do you think, Duck, that it's actually smart and intelligent, and it may work out better for us not to thrust him into the fire and slowly integrate him into the team and then get him to a point where, like, now it's like, right, you've shown yourself against Arsenal. Can you step up and can you continue that and make that spot something that you have to compete? Everyone else has to compete for, whether it be Ricky P, who we'll touch on in a minute, or James Justin when he's back available. I like this. I think this is good that he hasn't been like set up to fail, so to speak. So this is his chance to step up, mate. And I'm feeling optimistic, and I really hope that he can add some pace, which we are sorely missing on that right-hand side.
I very much see your point, right? Because coming into a relegation-threatened team in January, you can very quickly, if you just get thrusted into the starting 11 as this massive big signing, you'll be highlighted as the savior, right? All the pressure will be on you to land on your feet and really hit the ground running, because if you don't, you're the hero now for Leicester. You need to be the one to save them and keep them up. But with the money you spent on him and the way you've pushed him into the team, the spotlight isn't on him anymore. People aren't thinking about him as the new signing. He's just Woyo Coulibaly, who's now one of the players here. And that gives less pressure to him, which is really good. It makes it easier for him to perform with less eyes on him and less expectations of being the savior that Leicester need. He looked really good in the Arsenal game, in my opinion, stepping in a game where I was really happy with James Justin's performances. And I want to say, at the very least, matching that performance, or maybe even one-upping it. I think when Ricardo comes back, there'll be arguments about who to start, especially with James Justin putting in a good game against Arsenal as well when he comes back. I'm hoping that either Woyo or Ricardo will be given the chance as right midfielder / right winger, because they seem to have some decent technical ability going forward as well, and some good pace, which we would really like. We like pace. We don't have much of it. So I think we need to utilize it when we have it. But we'll see. I think he can step up this game, though. He'll be under pressure, but he has Ndidi by his side, and I think those two should, or at the very least, will make it hard for Keane Lewis-Potter and Kevin Schade to cut through.
Yeah, and do you know what was quite interesting as well is like I think he won at least 3 tackles in that game. Like he was really good at like getting the ball back and then progressing the pitch with his pace, and his ball distribution wasn't bad either. So I think it's excellent. And I want to talk about Ricky P at the end of the stream, because I've got some questions for you that I'm curious to pick your brain about. So let's hope for Woyo Coulibaly's sake he can step up and show us, that we've made a really good signing, and long may John Rodkin stay. What a masterclass, maybe. So moving on, we've got here, I'm so overdoing this. It's not a predicted lineup. It's, again, what I want to see, and it's essentially the same as last week. The only change is Coulibaly because of the injury of JJ. Now, while we're on this 11, let's just talk about this. Vardy, in my opinion, cannot start. I hate saying this. I don't even like Daka, but he's all we've got right now. I don't want IU up top. I don't want Edison. What a waste of time and money that is. But what I want to talk to you about is, obviously this is probably most likely what we're going to go for, except are we going to go with slow wingers again? Are we going to play Turtle IU and Bobby Donkey over Reed? I really hope not. It'd be stupid. I understand why you don't want to play Boyanote on the right wing, but with Coulibaly there, is he a bit quicker? He's not going to rove as much forward? Like what I think personally, and again, I am no manager, but I just cannot comprehend. Let's just talk about Ricky P now. In my opinion, the best way, you can make an argument, you could put Bilal on the left or even the right maybe. And if you had to pick him to do that, I would trust him, because he seems to be the most adaptable player that can play in different positions. He's done left wing before, but in my opinion, Mavididi can't play on the right. We need Mavididi. He's got pace, and essentially, I know I keep saying it, he's our only winger. I know Locks has an agenda against him, but I still think he offers so much more. And I think he's sorely missing having Dewsbury Hall as an 8 pressing up alongside him. Too many times on transition do we look absolutely dead, and as Anil likes to say, geriatric front 3. Why don't we go back? If Ricky P could be back in time, I don't think he will, because he'll have to be slowly integrated in with his minutes. He's had so many injuries. Who knows how he's going to bounce back? But I would rather have someone invert into a pivot position and then be able to drop back into a back 4 out of possession, than have someone as a right back get all the way up the fucking pitch and then get hit in a counter transition, have to track all the way back of your pants down. I just think it's way more dangerous. I don't like that. I know we've done that much more with Christians in the last few games, but against Mbuemo, I think that's too fucking scary. I'll ask you what you think about that in a second. But do you think, Duck, that if Ricky P was up and available and Samari just keeps being poor on the ball in moments, do you think the answer would be Ricky P to invert into a double pivot position alongside Ndidi, who's going to win challenges, crash into people and tackle people, and then that way you could have El Khanous and Boyanote as your 8s? They're going to be able to track up its space and track back and support the back 3 as well, in and out, and allows them both to be in the pitch. I think that would be superb, and then we'll just be a conversation who takes that right wing position. Am I out of my fucking mind? Is it probably going to happen? No, but I think it would be the best thing to do for the team.
I don't want to say you're out of your mind. I would disagree that Buonanotte should be starting in that. I would rather see someone like Ndidi and Samari given the freedom to then push up with Ricky coming back in. We saw Ndidi being pretty good at playing the offensive 8 under Enzo's system, right? He made those good runs into the half space, got the cross in, or got on the end of crosses sometimes as well. And I think he actually did very well in that position. I think Samari could do that too, pressing high and being able to win the ball and playing a few 1-2s. So I see the idea. I think the good thing that we can take away with Ricky coming back soon is that he offers versatility. I've been arguing maybe he should start at the right wing / right midfielder, because that role has a lot of defensive duties as well that he would be good at, but also has the pace and technical ability required to play as the right winger and threaten up an attack. Or you could invert him, and then our 8 will be allowed to push further up and add more members to the attack and make it more threatening. Just to add to this lineup, I personally wouldn't be starting Buonanotte and Daka. I still prefer Vardy to be starting. I think it is very key, though, however, Luke, that you take him out 55th, 60th minute, because while Vardy can press and he can run pretty fast, he can't do it for long. He has to pick and choose his battles very carefully. And if you play him over 90 minutes, those battles will be few and far in between, and we need him to be able to do it more. So a smaller but a more focused performance from Vardy is what I want to see from Ruud. But that's not on Vardy, that's on Ruud to manage his minutes better. On the right, I want Deco Reed to be starting, and that's not because of the pace, because he doesn't have any. It's because he's good at the touch and go. I think Buonanotte on the ball, in particular in this game where I want us to be quick on transition, too often gets caught with his head down, running with the ball himself. Deco Reed is very good at getting the pass and instantly finding a 1-2 touch pass onwards to progress the play. And I want him to do that to a Canute, who can then take the mantle and play alongside Vardy and Mavididi to try and cut through the Brentford defense. I don't think Deco Reed is the perfect option, but I think it's the best option we have on this right-hand side for this particular game and how I think we would be able to break down the Brentford defense. Yeah, it's not a perfect option, but that's just my thoughts. But I do think that will give us the best chance of being able to play on the counter and then just focusing on, setting up Mavididi to succeed.
I see where you're coming from, mate. I was torn between Daka and Vardy because I agree. Because if they're going to play a high line, that could work off the shoulder, particularly if Vardy makes his times his run right. But is the pace the only reason is like, well, Daka has pace, but Vardy still has class in moments. So I was torn between the two. So there's definitely merit in what you're saying. Mavididi, would you start him as your left winger?
For sure, absolutely. We need that pace. We need someone who's able to take on that man, and that's why I would focus my play down the left. And I think it's important, as I said with Buonanotte, right? Sometimes keeps his head down a bit too much. Deco Reed won't do that, and he's very good at getting the ball and making the play happen. And Mavididi needs as much time on the ball himself to be able to take those one-on-ones against Christopher Ajer, or hopefully once in a million years, just use that overlap every now and then when it comes through. There's still plenty of room for improvement for Mavididi, but I think we've seen enough now of Jordan Ayew and Deco Reed on the left to feel like we at the very least need one winger who's direct and tries to take on his man, even if it doesn't always work, which it hasn't done this season for Mavididi.
Yes, I agree, mate. So that is the lineup that I would like to see. Duck would like to see something a bit different. Chances are we're probably going to see the exact same lineup, knowing Ruud, except with the exception of Coulibaly coming in for James Justin. Now, closing thoughts. Leicester really need pace for this game, in my opinion, of the high line versus high line on the cards. I would definitely think that I would much rather have, obviously, a Coley playing than Vestergaard in this one. We saw what happened to Vestergaard when people are playing ball over the top like Everton did. This is a game where we do not want to be playing Vestergaard. This is also going to be settled, as I mentioned earlier, by the double pivots potentially. I really want to be curious to see how much of a good game Ndidi and Samari can have. They really need to step up, in my opinion, and that's where I think the game can be won. Can Leicester become more creative in our attack with pace on our wings? I think so. We discussed that. Unless you're going to change up the system and having 2 high eights like we did under Enzo Ball, having slow wingers is just not going to work. It just looks like there's no bite there or threat whatsoever. It's got to stop. At least got to have pace on one side, in my opinion. Duck, what are your closing thoughts? How scared are you of Mbeumo up against Victor Christensen? Do you think Christensen struggles against physicality sometimes? For example, maybe Traore wasn't a really good game for him. What are your thoughts on that matchup? I think it's one that scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I think he'll make it a tough game for Mbeumo, but there is no doubt in my mind Mbeumo is a quality Premier League player. It wouldn't surprise me to see him at a top 6 club in half a year to a year's time. So, yeah, he'll probably get beat 1 or 2 times. He definitely needs some help, though, because, Mbeumo, tough cookie to deal with. I think it will be close. I think Mbeumo can hopefully be kept on lock, but his pace is dangerous. And when Iron Wizard comes on those supporting runs, it gets really hard to deal with. So Caleb Okoli needs to be right by his side. And Mavididi, if he's starting, has huge responsibilities to help out in the defense as well. And if he can do that, I'm ready to give him a start.
Lastly, closing thoughts. So there's now talk of seeing the conference. Now, Ricky P's back in training. Hopefully going to be slowly integrated into the team again. That's excellent. Is he going to invert or is he going to be a right back option? Really, really interesting to see. He can play left back or right back. He can play in the double pivot. He's played at high 8. Could he play right wing? There's so many interesting things that could happen, but I just would love to have Ricky P back, his quality and class. And talks as well of Monga and what's the other lad's name that just scored the hat-trick? His name is Evans. Thank you. Yeah. Possibly going to feature. He said that before in the FA Cup game. It didn't happen, but will they be on the bench? How much can they getting the rub working with the more senior experienced players in training? Is he doing the right thing like he has of Woyo, where he might slowly start integrating them? Is he going to start preparing for life in the championship if he's going to stay? Are these going to be the players he's going to be forced to use? I think it's quite positive. I would like to see them get 5 or 10 minutes if we're up in front, to be honest with you, or if it looks like, like what would be your ideal scenario to integrate these youngsters into the side other than a cup game?
I will say what they've done with getting Andy King up to the first team. They've had that for a while now, but they've now
Yeah.
finally announced it. I think that's a very good move because we need someone to help bridge the gap between the academy and the first team. We discussed this last week, and I want to see them slowly but surely be given minutes because we've tried every available toolbox in the toolkit. It feels like at this point with our different wingers and such, and there's nothing that has worked. I'm at the point where I'd be happy to see Monga or Jake Evans get 20, 30 minutes in a game that, let's just say we get behind 1-0, 2-0, and we're struggling to create anything. Why not get them on and see if they can do something? If they can't, fair enough. They're 15, 16. Give them time. I hear they're very good prospects, and I believe they can grow into something great. But, give them some first team minutes, see if they take that chance, or if not, they have plenty of time to do so in the future. And then we can go back to using the same old broken tools that we are trying to sub in that I haven't been able to make the difference. So yeah, I think Ruud is slowly but surely integrating them. I think he's doing it well. You can't just, or you can thrust him into the starting 11. That's what happens to Victor Christiansen, but that's only because of an injury crisis at the left back position in Copenhagen. And sometimes that's what you need, right? When a situation pops up, for example, I don't want to say we have an injury crisis at right wing. We have a quality crisis at right wing. No one is good enough, really. And in my opinion, that should be enough for me to, if Ruud believes in Monga, put him in, give him the shot, and see if he takes his chance. And if not, again, he could do it in a year's time, 2 years' time. He will still just be 16 and 17 at those points. So he has plenty of time to learn and grow. But I guess if Ruud hasn't done that yet, someone we know who is willing to play the youth in Ruud, like he's done at PSV, I guess he doesn't see them as fully ready players. And I think that's fair enough because this is a tough situation to be thrusted into. Luckily for me, though, I'm just happy to see the club focusing on bridging the gap between the first team and the academy, and that's a good beginning. And seeing Monka in the FA Cup squad, while I was sad he didn't get his debut, it's a step in the right direction.
I agree, mate. Like, we need to start seeing a return on Seagrave now. We need to start turning out some product from the academy, which would be brilliant. And there's something, I'll end it with this, right? There's something to be said where they say that Seagrave is too much of like a retirement village, or people are too comfortable and too relaxed there. And if you've got people in the twilight of their career like Bobby, Donkey Overreed, and Turd Liu, who they're getting crazy money, they're probably surprised with the wages they're on, the deals that they got, and they're relaxed, and they know they're going to be possibly in the starting 11 week in, week out, and they're relaxed. And you've got someone like Evans up top, or you've got someone like Monga who's got a chip on their shoulder, something to prove. You want to get that move eventually to the next. You want to make your club proud and hopefully maybe get a move to another big club. You want to prove to the world you're excited, you're young, you're full of enthusiasm. You want to make your imprint and your impact on the game and the world. And this could be your chance to do it. There's something to be said for that and the desire compared to someone, let's say, at the end of the career like IU or Reed. I think there's no harm in trying it for at least 15, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? If they have a good training session and he's working alongside Ricky P and all these experienced players, or, Evans or Vardy, and they're getting that rub and training, they're having that managerial experience from Ruud, who's been there and done that, of a winning mentality. Fucker, I would honestly say start them soon. If we get to a point where we look like we're not going to be able to make it out of relegation, I would start them dead set. Let's see what they can do. The right wings are horrific anyway. Vardy's not been getting any service. Do you want to play Evans? I'm for it. Monga's really highly talented. I know he's young, but if you're good enough, you're old enough. And we've seen with Lamine Yamal, whatever his name is at Barcelona, it doesn't fucking matter about how old you are. We've all heard about good things about Monga. I would start him soon, man, to be honest with you. Like, it's not like we're going to miss much on Bobby Decova-Reid on the right, in my opinion, but could be a crazy take.
I agree. I think, again, it's more the point of give him the chance, see if he takes it. If not, no one will be jumping on the 15-year-old for not carrying Leicester out of the relegation zone, right? People are going to be very supportive of him just getting a few minutes, and then he can go back, keep training with the first team, and grow until he's ready to potentially try and reclaim that starting space or just get some minutes from the bench again. I don't see why we wouldn't take the chance. I'm even open to seeing someone like Edouard, who I know won't be here in the future, but we've paid I don't know how many million for him on loan. And if Vardy and Daka aren't working, why not just try him? I think for him, it's very clear that Ruud doesn't like some of his play, to not even include him in the matchday squads. But I'm at that point that I just want to make sure we've exhausted every single possible option, at the very least in attack, because there we have nothing really that seems to be working consistently at the moment, except for Bilal being great at a few games and good in other games.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. Spot on. Yeah, exactly. Like, even if they were to come on, he's a young lad. Like, and if he wanted to hit the ground running, what do you expect? He's a young lad. Rude can put an arm around his shoulder and say, "Listen, mate, I thought you did really well in these moments here. This is what I think you can work on now you know what you need to. Your homework is, etc., etc. Work on this, work on that, and we'll slowly integrate you into the team depending on how you trade and how you perform." But hey, before we wrap this up, Duck, give me a score prediction. Are you feeling positive? How are you feeling about the game after the Arsenal? What are your score prediction?
I'm not feeling positive, but I'm feeling blindly optimistic as always, right? That we can still do this. And I think at home, even though this game will be tough, we need to have belief that we can get something. We've been able to play good games at home against both City and Arsenal. And I think normally we're able to step up to the good team's level. This is a good team coming to us. I don't see us as favorites, but I see us as someone who will have every chance of walking away with something. And as always, I'm going to be blindly optimistic and say I think Leicester, we will turn our fortunes around this time. It's going to be a 2-1. And Mbeumo scores for them, but we get 2 goals through who? I have no idea because no one's in goal scoring form recently, but we need to score at home, man. It can't be since the 6th of December we scored in at home in the Premier League.
I'm going to go for an outrageous take. I'm feeling optimistic as well. I'm going to go for a 3-2 win in favor of
Big.
Leicester. 2 high Lions, maybe potentially a lot of goals. Who knows? Or maybe I just look like an absolute idiot. But hey, good luck to Brentford for this game. But I think they should be wishing us like we need it. But hey, thank you for tuning in. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Comment. Let us know what you think. Did we butcher it? I think that Duck absolutely smashed it, but I do think low-key that he's got a Brentford shirt underneath that T-shirt of his. Let us know what you think. And we'll see you for the match day live Friday night, Saturday morning here in Australia. We'll see you there. Me, Lox, and Neil, and maybe Duck if he's up and around. Other than that, have a good week and weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one.